Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I am very happy to be able to sit down with Samson Mow, the one, the only of Blockstream. So Samson, thank you so much for taking the time. It's honestly a real pleasure to talk to you. I've talked to a lot of people during this conference and for the show, and a lot of them I didn't know who they were.
Okay, that's not good.
Well, no, I don't mean that in a bad way, but you know, fresh faces, and
right.
they kind of have to, and more so for the audience, they're like, well, who is that guy? We've heard of Zilliqua or this or that project before, but I don't think you really need any introduction for me. But for people who might not know who you are, could you just give a brief introduction of your background, how you came to be into crypto, and how you got to here today?
So I'm Samson. I'm from Blockstream. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer. Before Blockstream, I was at BTCC or BTC China, running an exchange and mining pool. And I'm also doing a show called Magical Crypto Friends with Charlie, Pony, and Panda.
Yeah. You guys can check that out, Magical Crypto Friends on YouTube. Pops up on my feed. It's quite nice to see that, every time it comes on. It's
fun.
It's fun, yeah. It's a lot of fun. So, obviously, your big area of expertise is going to be Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm. And Ethereum.
And Ethereum?
Yeah.
Okay, so you wouldn't, and again, I guess I'm not really familiar with, kind of what your current views are. You know what I mean? I'll be honest with you.
On
I just kind of
Ethereum?
know I just kind of know your background and your pedigree a little bit. So,
sure.
You wouldn't consider yourself a Bitcoin maximalist or anything like that?
It depends. Bitcoin maximalist is a complex definition, right?
Okay, this is good. This is getting good. Thanks so much, Wally, for the $5 too, my friend. Highly appreciated.
So, you could say like a Bitcoin maximalist is someone that only likes Bitcoin and nothing else.
Sure.
But I think I'm more tolerant. Like if something is not outright scam, I don't mind it existing because I'm pretty libertarian. I think it's okay for people to make their own projects and experiment with tech that is interesting, so long as they're not misleading people, defrauding people, and scamming people, right? So in that, if your definition of maximalist is like only Bitcoin, hate everything else, then I'm not.
Right.
But I'm very, very much pro Bitcoin, and I really believe a lot in Bitcoin. So if that is the definition, then yes, I'm a Bitcoin maximalist.
That's exactly the stance that I have myself personally. I got involved in cryptocurrency in March of 2016, and came for the gains, to be quite honest with you, and stayed for everything. Right? I'm a libertarian. I'm bordering ANCAP. And it was just a fit, everything. The goal to replace fiat money with hard money, to remove authoritarian control of the monetary supply and decentralize that, that's what I think is the most important. And because of that, that's why I've always leaned toward this Bitcoin maximalism. What is the most important thing that we could be fighting? And a lot of people disagree about that, but for me it's hard money. Let's start with hard money and we can solve, everything else becomes a lot easier.
Bitcoin fixes this?
Bitcoin fixes it, Bitcoin fixes this, in my opinion. And again, it's not like a magical, just red pill that everybody takes and we're all happy. There's thousands upon thousands of struggles. But if you can get sound money and hard money, at least into the minds of people, you started a revolution. Just like we see 10 years later, it's the 11th birthday of Bitcoin, and yesterday, and look at where we're at. We're in San Francisco, and there's almost 1,000 people here. It's amazing. So. But over the last year, I've kind of become, especially learning about the DeFi environment, the ecosystem, and it's a $700 million ecosystem that works. And so I've become far more tolerant. But my question is, the argument for Bitcoin, store of value, medium of exchange, I find that people who hold very religiously to medium of exchange, so this was obviously one of the reasons for the Bitcoin Cash hard fork, for the Bitcoin SV hard fork. They say that, scalability is the main thing. We want it to be a currency, I want to buy my coffee with Bitcoin. Whereas the store of value argument makes sense for a lot of people, but it is derided sometimes as, well, how can you have a store of value if it's not a medium of exchange? Personally, my views on this have evolved over time to where I think the store of value narrative now makes more sense. The medium of exchange made sense to me, and that makes less sense because you can use an alternative for a medium of exchange. So, do you feel that? And I find that people who are store of value pro or think that makes sense are far more tolerant of other chains. And I think people who are medium of exchange are like, only Bitcoin, everything else sucks. Maybe that's just me.
Well, I think the people pushing really hard for medium of exchange are probably the big block guys, right? That forked off to make their medium of exchange chain, right? But I don't think it's possible to have a medium of exchange without that store of value first, right? Because medium of exchange means that I will accept this in lieu of something else.
Right.
And to do that, that thing has to be valuable. Like I could print 1 billion Samson tokens and say, medium of exchange token, right? But are you going to take that for your microphone or your laptop?
Yeah,
I don't think so, right? It's got to be valuable to you.
It's got to be valuable.
So without that fundamental piece first of value storing, then you can't do that medium of exchange. And people like to critique Bitcoin because they say, no, it's not a store of value, it's volatile. Look, it went from 20K to this, right? But I don't think they really understand how volatility works, especially for something like a new money like Bitcoin. And I think they're looking at it on very short time horizons. And I think a lot of people are looking at Bitcoin through this lens of very short time horizons, like it's a stock or something and there's a quarterly earnings and we got to hit those targets,
dividends
right? But Bitcoin is a new form of money which is going to evolve over a few hundred years. And a lot of Bitcoiners are actually okay with that because we're in it for the long run. You know, if you have kids, you're in it for the next generation and the generation after that. It's more about fixing a dystopian Orwellian world than let's make a new PayPal and buy coffee.
Right. I agree. And I find that tolerance of other projects, as you talked about with Ethereum, I find that does come largely from the store of value. So you are confirming some biases.
No, I was just joking about that. I don't like Ethereum.
You don't like Ethereum at all?
Not really.
Okay.
I think DeFi should be for defiance, and it's Bitcoin because you're defying the system.
Okay. Listen, so I've talked to a lot of people. There's obviously a lot of excitement about Ethereum. I'm okay with Ethereum, right? I have nothing against Ethereum. What's funny is it wasn't always that way. As I said, over the last year, and this might surprise the viewers because I generally come off as pretty just Bitcoin all the time, right? Mm-hmm. But over the last year, I've become more open to Ethereum, right? And a lot of my business partners, people that I work with, they're very pro Ethereum. So what is it specifically about Ethereum that kind of...
So it goes back to the definition, right? I'm okay with a project if it's honest about what it can or cannot do. And this is one of the reasons why I like Monero, because Fluffy Pony is very honest about what it can and cannot do. And he doesn't oversell it, right? I think privacy tech like Monero is valuable because it's allowing us to have the freedom to transact. Mm-hmm. Without privacy, you can't transact freely, right? You're relying on a third party to let you transfer, which is very bad. It can get dark, it can get very Orwellian, right? But that's why we need tech like that. But he's never oversold it and said, this is the next Bitcoin, right? Whereas Ethereum, maybe I'm generalizing, but they've always said, like, this is the next thing. This is the better Bitcoin. We're scalable. And then suddenly now they've come out, like Joe Lubin was out a couple weeks ago and said, we knew from day one it was never going to scale. And in a lot of Bitcoiners' books, that is why Ethereum is scammy, because they just keep changing their narrative as they go. They keep moving those goalposts constantly just to stay relevant, right? And that is probably why people don't like Ethereum. It's not about the tech. It's not about you wanting to do smart contracts, right? Like, sure, why not? Experiment with the tech, but don't overpromise it and overhype it.
Sure.
But this is why I think Vitalik these days is on Twitter trying to get people to agree with him on why it's okay to roll back a chain. Like, under this situation, it's okay to do it, right? And trying to solicit that kind of compassion to rollbacks.
Yeah. I mean, I look at a lot of this too, like, how do I put this? I've always looked at Bitcoin pretty much ever since I heard of it as, I feel confident investing in Bitcoin, putting my money into Bitcoin, because I believe in the store of narrative value, right? Ultimately, at the end of the day, for anything that you involve time, future horizons, and money with, it's an investment, right? You're either investing in friendships or your companies or time or cryptocurrency. I've always felt comfortable investing in Bitcoin. Any of these other tokens, though, like even Ethereum, like over the last year, I've kind of softened on this a little bit, but still, I don't have a very large position in Ethereum. Mm-hmm. I just never felt safe buying something if it wasn't like short-term, for a short-term gain or something like that, right? Because for me with Ethereum, it was always the centralization. I saw what happened with the DAO hack, and I saw how they rolled the chain back, and that really rubbed me the wrong way. What was it like? You were around back then. I wasn't. Like, what was it like, being there at that time when that happened? Kind of from the perspective of a Bitcoiner. Was that, I feel like that was kind of like a watershed moment where a lot of people were like, yeah, okay, Ethereum, and then all of a sudden they rolled the chain back and it's like, heretics, kind of type.
Well, yeah, but that's how ETC was born, right? Because even the Ethereum crowd thought, you can't do that, right? It was like a really funny thing to watch. Like, for me personally, I thought that hard fork is going to kill it. but it's still alive.
It's still alive.
And I think it's a testament to their ability to market themselves and adjust the narrative accordingly.
Sure.
That what are they saying now? It was a incorrect state change or something like that. It was not a rollback. But this is just why people don't like Ethereum, I think.
From Bitcoin. Incorrect state change?
Yeah, that's one of their things now. There's some guy was saying it wasn't a hard fork, it wasn't a rollback, it was just an incorrect state change.
Right. So it's just just a glitch.
Yeah.
Boop. Yeah, I don't like that. Listen, there's stuff I'd like to get your opinion on just because of who you are. So we're obviously in a super exciting time right now for cryptocurrency. We had 2017 and a lot of new participants entered into the market. We had 2018, which was largely very depressing, for most people involved in cryptocurrency. A lot of people just, in my experience.
Well, it depends when you got in.
Yeah, it depends on when you got in.
A lot of people actually building stuff. 2018 was great.
Yeah.
We got to sit down, heads down, and work and just build.
Yeah.
And that's actually really useful. Like bear markets is actually, that's the time when people build the most stuff. For Blockstream, we cranked out a lot of stuff in 2018 because there's no distractions at all. There's no Bitcoin civil war, fork wars.
All that
was
over.
Prices chill, and we're good.
That's good, man. That's good. I'm glad. And that's honestly what I've seen even with Ethereum. We had a lot of ICO projects. And my general opinion on those is most of them are scams, or most of them were scams. Even if they didn't mean to be scams, what is the definition of a scam, right?
Yeah.
J.W. Weatherman, I don't know if you're familiar, he talks about this, about, are you a unknowing scammer, basically, right? Like, even if you're not intending to be, like, you're still a scammer.
Yeah.
And that's what he calls Ethereum that, because of they're unintentional scammers.
But you can't know. Like, do they know? And is Vitalik putting on a very good face about talking about the tech and making it more complicated and confusing layperson, or do they just not know and he really believes that he can make it more complicated and better?
Well, I think his definition is it's somebody who genuinely believes that what they're doing is correct, but if you drill all the way down to your base assumption, like, is this better than Bitcoin? If the answer is no, unintentional scammer.
Yeah.
Because for him, maybe much more vehemently than me, the goal here is hard money. And so 2008. So for those who didn't get in earlier, 2018 was fairly depressing, right?
Okay.
But 2019 is pretty exciting. Like prices are up on a lot of coins. You have some more people coming in. You have backed. A lot of interesting things going on.
Volume and backed is picking up a lot now.
Yeah, it is. I thought that's so. What? Yeah. So based on that, like, where do you feel like we're kind of at? In the speculative cycle, or just in the wave of Bitcoin adoption, and what's kind of on the frontier? What are we dealing with right now?
I think with the rise of the institutional exchanges serving those institutional players, we're going to see a lot more money coming in. Because if you're an institutional investor, or you're a REIT or something, or a trust fund or a pension fund, then you probably need to use those venues. And I think it takes time for them to build up their strategy and decide on how much to allocate to Bitcoin. But having that venue there and ready to serve them to meet their own requirements is that doorway into Bitcoin.
Right.
I think if you guys are interested in like hyper-Bitcoinization, that is definitely a way to get there, because to reach hyper-Bitcoinization, we got to move trillions into the network, right? Where are those trillions coming from? I think it will be institutional players. Like a lot of people say, like, who cares about institutions? The price is still going up, but the stability will come from having a bigger market cap and having more money in the system, and you do need that doorway.
Do you think that obviously a lot of people have entered cryptocurrency, Bitcoin specifically too, as well, since 2016, let's say, for largely speculative purposes?
Yeah.
Do you think that obviously we know this, that the less liquidity, the more volatile an asset is? This is true across all asset classes.
Yep.
Do you think that, as you were talking about, as price stabilizes, as volume increases, as volatility, I'm making an assumption there, as volume increases from institutional investment and institutional just holding of Bitcoin, do you think that volatility will die down? And obviously yes, long term, but do you think that will affect speculative adoption, or will there be something else to fuel adoption after the speculative phase is kind of over?
The thing is, volatility will never go away, because Bitcoin is a global asset. You can have someone in Russia or China buy up a huge chunk.
Right.
You can't predict that, right? You can do all the TA you want, but the fact that it is global and there is no border preventing someone from buying a big chunk of Bitcoin or selling a big chunk of Bitcoin, we'll still have volatility. Even as we get to $1 trillion market cap, it'll just even out a bit more. But with volatility comes more volatility. People freak out or they get FOMO and then they go in.
Chase the high.
I think volatility will never go away. It'll decrease, and it'll just keep decreasing as we get to like gold's market cap of $7.5, $8 trillion.
Sure.
But yeah, I think it's okay. Like people are okay with volatility too.
I mean, they are because
traders are.
Well, yeah. Well, traders chase volatility.
Yeah.
So we'll just go to whatever market has the most volatility.
Yeah. And if you're buying Bitcoin for the right reason, that it is an investment, you should not be caring about daily volatility.
Sure.
That's like being a day trader, right? Mm-hmm. If you're buying Bitcoin, think of it as buying a house. I don't check the housing market every day to see if the price went up or down.
Sure. Every 5 years.
Yeah.
Once every 5 years.
Or every year when you get your assessment, right?
Right. Yeah.
But that's the right perspective.
And with Bitcoin, it's kind of the only crypto token that not even a token, it's the only cryptocurrency, it's the only layer 1 blockchain protocol that I feel that way about. Everything else is speculative for me.
Yeah.
I mean,
more speculative or short-term trading.
So you said you kind of had this, if it's not a scam, you're kind of okay with it. Is there anything that falls into that basket,
I think Litecoin and Monero are fine.
Sure.
Yeah. I think Grin is okay too. Like, there's interesting tech being built and deployed, and I think for me that's what makes it interesting to watch, right? We can do things on other chains that you can't do quickly in Bitcoin. So for Blockstream, we have Liquid, which is a sidechain. So we can experiment on Liquid and roll out new features. So we have confidential transactions, confidential assets on Liquid. We're going to roll out Simplicity, smart contracting language in Liquid first, but that is a venue to test stuff. But then you also have like Monero with Ring CT. We can try that on the wild and see how it goes. I think Charlie's rolling out a Mimblewimble sidechain to Litecoin too, to enhance privacy. But it's good to have other projects pushing the boundaries and advancing privacy tech.
Yeah. Well, especially these projects that you just mentioned, I mean, they're built around SHA-256, so you can incorporate a lot of what you want, with the case of Litecoin anyways.
I don't think Litecoin and Monero are not SHA-256.
Okay. So, correct me where I go astray then.
Okay.
I mean, they're more similar to Bitcoin than something like Ethereum.
Litecoin's code base is mostly Bitcoin with script and some adjustments, but we'll see what happens when they roll out their Mimblewimble chain.
Sure.
And what happens with that.
Do you think, what is Blockstream working on right now? You just mentioned Liquid and everything that you guys are working on there.
Right. So our big push right now is Liquid Securities. So, we have Liquid Network, it's inter-exchange settlement network to move money quickly from exchange to exchange. We've got Bitfinex in there, BitMEX, OK, Huobi, BitC, and a bunch of other exchanges. But what we can do with Liquid is issue security tokens too, and take advantage of confidential assets. So if you have even before security tokens, you have stablecoins. So Tether is in there. I think there's $1.5 million of Tether right now and it's growing. But you can move your Tether without anyone seeing how much you moved.
Okay.
Confidentiality, that's beneficial to you guys, right, to traders. You can do security tokens like I mentioned. So we're building Liquid Securities, which is a platform to manage these Liquid tokens. Liquid tokens and Liquid are just dumb tokens, right? They're just really secure at the base level, native to the protocol. But Liquid Securities lets you build blacklist, whitelist, velocity limits, restrictions for trading, because securities do have those restrictions.
Sure.
And that's something we're working with some big partners in the space, and we hope we can announce it soon. But
sure.
That's I think that's the next thing.
Awesome. So you're basically, correct me where I go straight, you're talking about programmatically creating a token or utility that is useful for traders, useful for anybody who wants to move these assets around, that is programmatically compliant with regulation.
It's a tokenized security using this thing we're building called an authorizer. So we're reusing our Blockstream Green Wallet multi-sig tech to handle these tokens, applying a list of rule sets to manage them according to whoever's issuing a token as per their requirements from the regulator.
Right. So I think that's pretty huge. When you can programmatically issue tokens that comply with regulation, that's pretty huge for all the big exchanges, for all the big blockchain companies.
Yeah.
And if are they going to be able to do this? So this is just a Liquid thing, or this isn't going to be able to be, again, just correct me where I go straight here, this is going to be able to be secured by the hash power of the Bitcoin blockchain?
No, it's secured by, the tokens exist on Liquid. Right. And Liquid is a federated network with the federation members signing blocks. Yeah. So instead of mining, they're signing. That's why the block times are faster and it's more reliable.
Gotcha. There's a couple more questions if you don't mind. There's a lot of kind of crazy things going on today. Obviously, I guess today, the most recent thing, or over the last 24 hours, there was a flash crash on Deribit, Coinbase's order books glitched up, and today we found out that BitMEX leaked all of its emails to the entire email, and then somebody said that BitMEX's Twitter got hacked.
Yeah.
To the best of my understanding, they fired the community manager
who still had
let
access.
the email slip, who had access to the Twitter, and he decided to fire a shot on his way out the door because they deleted the tweets. That's their statement.
Yeah, that was really stupid.
Again, it's not really your speciality. Do you have any comment on that? I just think it's kind of interesting and kind of worrying.
It's going to show who's using Coinbase's pricing data. And one thing you could do is use an index. So we have the cryptocurrency data feed at Blockstream, which we built in conjunction with ICE. So that ICE is the owner of the New York Stock Exchange and Bakkt. But we have this product we developed with them in conjunction. But you can use that to aggregate your price and even it out so you're not just drawing from Coinbase alone. Because that was what the issue is. They're relying on Coinbase pricing somehow. And that's not really a good idea because if Coinbase goes down, you're going to have problems.
Crash on Deribit,
and then you have your community guy emailing people and leaking emails, and then you fire him and so forth, right? So it's bad.
So we need stricter, maybe hiring protocols?
Yeah.
Can we put background checks on the blockchain?
Probably.
Yeah. At some point? All right. Last question. Do you have any opinions on, I've actually been pretty critical on Bitfinex with the entire Tether debacle. Obviously, they are involved in an open case with the New York Attorney General's office. I mean, do you have any opinion on that?
I think there's a lot of hate and animosity towards Tether online for some very weird reason. I don't have a problem with Tether. I think it's the biggest stablecoin out there, and for me, liquidity is king. So there's just so many people that recognize Tether. If you go to the Hong Kong money markets, USDT is listed on those money markets along with other foreign currencies. That's how recognized it is. And when you have that level of recognition and track record, because people have always said they're fractional, they don't have the US dollar backing, but when has anyone ever tried to withdraw and not gotten the money, right? They did borrow, Bitfinex borrowed from Tether. And that really illustrates the fact that Tether was 100% backed, because otherwise how could you borrow and now it's short some money that was borrowed, which they paid back or are paying back from their Leo token, right? So everything points to it being reliable and fully backed. So I think there must be some campaign of some people trying to FUD Tether, to promote some other stablecoin or something. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me.
So USDT backed by USDC campaign?
Who knows?
Cool. Anyways, we got somebody else coming on, but Samson, honestly, I wish I could talk to you for another couple hours. I really appreciate it, man. Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Final thoughts?
Yeah, buy Bitcoin.
I knew you were going to say that. Cool,
but that's not financial advice.
Sure.
That's just good advice.